In this video, we shall discuss about topic interrupt handling schemes. So basically, what this interrupt handling schemes is interrupt handling schemes like how you going to handle the interrupt. So interrupt is basically something actually which disturbs the normal execution of the program. So when the normal execution of the program is disturbed, so how you are going to handle that interrupt? There are four different ways of handling those interrupts, and of course we are going to call that one as four different types of interrupt handlers. The first one that you have is non-nested interrupt handler, second one is the nested interrupt handler, third one is the re-entered interrupt handler, the last one that you have is the prioritized simple interrupt handler. So each one has its own advantages and the disadvantages. The first one that you have is non-nested interrupt handler. This is basically a kind of interrupt handler which handles and services the individual interrupts sequentially. Means one by one it is going to handle that one. It is very simple. It is not going to handle more than one interrupt at a time. So it is going to handle only one interrupt. So that is why we call that one as it is going to handle the individual interrupts sequentially. Whereas nested interrupt handler is one thing actually which is going to handle the multiple interrupts. So not only not only one interrupt it handles, but it handles multiple interrupts. But of course, without a priority assignment, priority is not assigned here. So priority is not assigned here. So priority is something actually which you for different kinds of interrupts. For an interrupt, you give more importance. So priority is something actually which is, if I have to say a proper word, what you mean by priority, that is you assigning importance, means more importance you give with respect to. So higher priority means more importance. Okay, that is the English meaning that you have. So of course there is no priority assigned with respect to all these interrupts, and these two are the priority based interrupt handlers. So we'll just look into these two later. Of course this one also we'll look in the next video, but in this video we're going to look into this non-nested interrupt handler in more detail. Okay, so as I said earlier, it is going to handle only one interrupt. Okay, so let me actually discuss about that one. Yeah, so this is with respect to the non-nested interrupt handler, the basic description. If I have to say the structural flow of the simple non-nested interrupt handler. Let me call this one also a very simple one. Okay, so maybe if I have to write a simple non-nested interrupt handler. So what is this one? Whenever any interrupt is raised, okay, the first thing that is going to, okay, so first of all, programmer is in the user mode, okay, and through the interrupt controller, of course you have a processor. This is a processor, and through the, of course, FIQ pin, the it is not going to through the interrupt controller. This is IRQ pin. Okay, so the IRQ pin user, it is going to maybe something, you have different peripheral devices like you have a UART device, you have a timer device, you could have anything. So all these devices, they need the attention of the processor, that is going to race through the IRQ pin. So processor which is there in the user mode, it has to switch to whenever the interrupt is raised through the IRQ pin of the processor by the interrupt controller, of course by the UART device through the interrupt controller, by making the IRQ pin high, the processor mode has to change from user mode to the what mode? It has to change from user mode to the IRQ mode. If any other processor if any other device raises the request through the FIQ pin, then user mode will be changed to FIQ mode. Okay, so this is what the mode changes, any of the exceptions. Means IRQ and the FIQ, we call that one as interrupt. We also have another kind of exceptions also. What are the different exceptions you can have it? Like you have the prefetch abort exception, you have the data abort exception, you have the reset exception, isn't it? So all these different exceptions you have. So these exceptions can also disturb the processor, isn't it? So you can have that's what I said, prefetch abort, data abort, reset exceptions. These are a lot external. Externally you are disturbing. They all happen inside the processor itself. Okay, whenever some memory access violations happen, you can have the prefetch or the data exception reset whenever the reset button, or during the power when you turn on the power. So that is also a kind of exception. So that is reset exception. Memory access violations happens with respect to instruction, then we call it as prefetch exception. Memory access violations with respect to the data, we call that one as data exceptions. So these can happen inside whenever the program is getting executed. But these are two interrupts. So it's a special kind of exception. These all things we have already discussed. So how it is going to happen? Maybe now program now it is in the user mode. So whenever program is in the user mode, when it has to change to the IRQ mode, what all things happen with respect to non-nested interrupt handler? So that is what we are going to discuss. Okay. So let me just erase this one. So basically, now in this case, so first of all, so one, as I said earlier, simple non-nested interrupt handler, this is basically it is going to handle only one interrupt. That is, only one interrupt is being handled by the any of the non-nested interrupt handler scheme. Okay, so what do you mean by that one? See, whenever some interrupt is raised, okay, so whenever interrupt is raised, the first thing what is going to happen, we have all discussed this one. What happens? First one is any of the respective mode. For example, in this case, actually, if the mode changes from user to IRQ, okay, some UR device raises the interrupt through the IRQ pin, then definitely what is the, you have to save that one, the CPSR, because CPSR now it is the user mode. Now CPSR has to change to the IRQ mode. So SPSR, that is saved program status, what will be the mode here? It will be the IRQ mode, that mode. Okay, CPSR content will be copied. This is the user mode content that will be copied to the SPSR underscore IRQ. Means whatever the interrupt, which mode interrupt has that has been raised. So your CPSR will be copied to that respective saved program status register underscore that respective exception mode. In this case, it is IRQ because user has changed to IRQ. That is what example I have taken, isn't it? Similarly, what will be changed here? R14 underscore IRQ. What you are going to save? PC content. Why you have to save the PC content? Because the PC content has to be stored in the R14. R14 is basically link register. This needs to be done. If this is not done, when you return from the IRQ mode and answer the user, go back to the user mode for the normal execution of the program, you will not remember what state you are in. Means, of course, you will not remember the memory address location also, because you are interrupted here. You go back to some other address location. You go back to the IRQ interrupt handler. From that one, you are going to service the interrupt. For example, UART is the interrupt that has been called. From that interrupt service, the UART interrupt service, you are going to service that UART, whatever the UART device has asked you. Now, in this case, when it wants to return back, it has to know where it was interrupted. That is why you are going to store the content program counter like in this one. That is going to be saved in the R14 register. Okay. So, now after doing this one, what has to be done? Now, the second thing that, the third thing that has to be done is CPSR set to ARM state. Of course, because usually what happens, you from the thumb mode also, you have like two states, isn't it? One is ARM state and the one is thumb state. So CPSR, the processor could be in the ARM state or it could be in the thumb state. As I've already discussed, whenever some exceptions or the interrupt is raised, it will not, even though it is in the thumb state, your CPSR will change to the ARM state. Okay, if it is in the ARM state, it will remain in the ARM state itself. But never actually the exceptions or the interrupt is serviced or any kind of actually program execution, it will not happen in the thumb state whenever some exception or interrupt is raised. Okay, so it will always actually execute all the program instructions in the ARM state itself. That is why CPSR is set to ARM state. That is the third thing that happens. Now, so last one, disabling the interrupts. Of course, why do you want to disable the interrupts? Because you disable the interrupts because no other other interrupt you are going to answer that one. Because if you don't, because see, there is only one IRQ pin. Okay, there is only one IRQ pin, and then and through this IRQ pin only, maybe through the interrupt controller, which is going to handle many interrupts, Okay, maybe you have, as I said earlier, UART or the timer. This is going to, interrupt controller is going to handle many interrupts, and with respect to it selects only one based on the priority. So UART is going to be selected. Now it requests the processor attention through the IRQ pin. When it does that, when it doesn't want, when this is being serviced, it doesn't want to give it some, without completing that one, it doesn't want to answer another interrupt here. That is why you have to disable that one. Of course, FIQ is not disabled. That is what you have to bear in mind here, and that is what I have written here, as you can just observe here. See, interrupts are disabled until controller is returned back to the interrupted task or process. Okay, that is what means. Interrupts are, you disable that one until you return back. For example, when user mode is which is going to be changed from is going to change to IRQ mode. After servicing that interrupt, you are going to return back to the interrupted task of the process. So you are going to return back to the user mode. On entering the handler, interrupts are disabled. But interrupts are disabled. One thing what you have to understand, FIQ is not disabled if IRQ is being serviced. That is what you have to understand here. Of course, if FIQ is, because already we have discussed about in the vector table, while I was explaining the vector table, like FIQ is of highest priority among the FIQ and the IRQ. Even if you have, if interrupt is raised through the IRQ, FIQ is not disabled. Like you have 2 bits for that one in the CPSR, isn't it? In the CPSR there are 2 fields, one to disable the I bit and the disable the F bit. Okay, and this is basically IRQ bit, and this is basically FIQ interrupt, that is fast interrupt request and those interrupt requests. Whenever actually any of the interrupt is raised through IRQ pin, you are disabling the, of course I is made 1. When I is made 1 means you are not accepting any kind of request through the IRQ, but FIQ is not disabled. So F is not made to 1 here, F is still 0 only, means it is still allowed. Okay, FIQ is not disabled. Okay, whereas with respect to if FIQ, if any of the other devices, external devices raises the interrupt that is disturbs the processor through the FIQ pin, then not only F is made 1, I is also made 1 here. Okay, so that because FIQ means higher priority. So FIQ means high priority means you don't want any other interrupt to be service. So that's why not only F is made 1, I is also made 1, so that you disable both FIQ as well as IRQ. You disable both FIQ and the IRQ. That is what you have to understand here. Okay, so that's what it has been written here. FIQ is not disabled if IRQ is being serviced. So give me a second. So okay, so let us discuss this. Yeah, so this is what you have it here. So R14, okay, this we have discussed. It is goes to the ARM state, then disable the interrupts, change to the exception mode. Obviously, you will have that CPSR when it sets to the ARM state. Okay, means ARM state means that T is made to be 0. Now disable the interrupts, that is I and the F. These are all things actually, whatever these things happening, they are basically you are making the modification the CPSR itself. Now change to the exception mode. You have like these 5 modes, isn't it? 5 bits. Sorry, you have the 5 bits in the first 0 to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and these 5 bits that you are going to make it with respect to if you have if you are changing from user to IRQ mode, then with respect to the bit combination that you have with respect to the IRQ mode, that you are going to put up in 0 to 4 bit of CPSR. Okay, so that is what you are going to do. So last but not the least, the most important thing that you have to do it in this case is, what is that you have to do? PC you are going to set up in the vector table entry, because PC with respect to IRQ, that maybe if I don't remember, but exactly you can just refer the vector table, that the table that I had discussed in the earlier videos. There you have address, some address that you have, that is for the IRQ, that is for the IRQ IRQ mode. Okay, if it is for the FIQ, you have some other vector address. So basically, if you go to this, that is what, if you want to go to this address, there you have some load instruction, and you're going to load that instruction and you're going to branch to the IRQ handler. To branch to the IRQ handler, the PC has to be loaded with a certain memory address where the load instruction is there. In this memory address, load instruction is there. From that one, you're going to load and then branch. Of course, load instruction means you're going to branch to the IRQ handler. There you're going to branch the IRQ handler. From the IRQ handler, you're going to execute the interrupt service routine. Different interrupt service, you're going to do that one. Okay. Of course, just check with this one that 8 I have written. I'm not sure about this one, whether it is for IRQ and the FAQ. You can just refer the vector table and get to know about this one. Fine. This we have already discussed in earlier video. Now, yeah, coming back to this point. So, what all the other things happen here? Yeah. So, now what okay, now in this PC is equal vector table, and this is the first thing that happens. After that one, you have to save the context. Why you want to save the context? Because this is what you are going to do, store register, store, okay, the store instruction. You are going to store the content from register to the into the stack. Stack is basically memory location. That is what you do. Similar to the push instruction what I said earlier, okay. Of course, you have the store instruction, you are going to store the content of the registers to the stack. Why do you want to store the content of register onto the stack? Because when you retrieve back from, when you come back from the any of the interrupt mode, that is maybe of the IRQ mode or FIQ mode or say any other supervisor mode to the normal mode, that is user mode. At that time you have to know what all registers contents was there when the processor got interrupted. If you don't remember, then you're going to lose all those contents. So that's why not remember means you put all those contents onto the register contents onto the stack. Okay, so that is what you save the context. Context means that environment. Environment means whatever the registers, you push it onto the register contents are pushed onto the stack. Push the register contents onto the stack. This is what you mean by save context. Okay. So similarly, then you go for the interrupt handler. That is what PC is equal to vector table entry. From that one, you are going to branch to the interrupt handler. In this case, you are going to branch into the IRQ handler. So IRQ handler, that is what I took the example. From that IRQ handler, you are going to service the respective interrupt. Maybe in this case, I took maybe UART is disturbing, or it could be timer, it could be anything. So any of these interrupts, whatever that is there, that it is going to service it. So from the interrupt handler, IRQ handler, it goes, then with respect to that interrupt, whatever that is there, it is going to service. Okay, be it of UART, something interrupt you are receiving through the UART device, some interrupt you are going to receive through timer device, all those interrupts are going to be serviced. So after servicing, you want to exit. So when you exit from the interrupt handler as well as the interrupt service routine, you want to restore the context. So this is basically you are popping the contents, popping the register contents from stack. You push the register contents to stack in the case of save context, whereas here you pop the register contents from stack, because you want to take that one. Because when you return that one, you just not return from IRQ mode to the user mode. In this case, you just don't return like that way. Whatever the register contents you had earlier saved it, that you want to retrieve it back also. That is what you do. Of course, popping means basically what you do, you are going to load the content from the memory, you put it in the registers. Whereas store means you are going to store from register to memory location, means in this case it is stack. Whereas load instruction, you take from the memory, then you put into the registers. That is what you do. Okay, that is what you restore the contents. When you after restore the contents, when you want to return to the task, okay, that is normal execution, the user mode. Before you resume the normal execution of the program, you want to enable the interrupts again, because you had disabled the interrupts here, isn't it? When you had disabled the interrupts, you want to enable the interrupts again, because it is not like actually you just disable it all the time. Because if you disable it all the time, maybe if timer wants to interrupt the processor, it is not allowed only. So it has to be enabled again. That is interrupts. Means what you do, you make I is equal to 0 again. You clear this I bit. In the case of FIQ, what you do, you make both F as well as I both zeros, so that you are allowing any other interrupts to be raised. So that is what you enable the interrupts again. Now you can just observe here, what you are doing here is, CPSR is equal to SPSR underscore mode. See, in this case, SP underscore mode, whatever that was there, like SPSR, you had saved that one in the IRQ. That you are going to put up in the again CPSR. Okay, so that is what you, because you had saved that one. That basically what was this one? This was the user mode that was there, that you had saved in SPSR underscore IRQ. You retrieve it back and put up in the CPSR. Now again, you PC also you are going to take it. This is basically what you do. This R14 minus 4. Okay, this is what we have already discussed. Why we are going to put up minus 4 here? Because in the pipeline, because of the pipelining, 4 byte address it would have advanced. So that's why you subtract it from 4, so that wherever the with respect to that instruction which was interrupted, so that it starts again from that address. Okay, so that is what you have with respect to IRQ and the FIQ. Okay, so this is what you do it. So that's why you subtract it from 4 here, so that you go back and then you start executing from that instruction. So that is what you do it in the case of non-nested interrupt handler. Just observe here what we are going to do in the non-nested interrupt handler is we are going to do, okay, let me actually go through whatever the instruction that I have put up here. Of course, we have discussed this one. The interrupts are going to be disabled. This is just for your whatever that I have explained, the same thing has been put up here. Interrupts are re-enabled only on returning from the handler. That is what we do it here. You enable the interrupts after you return from the handler. This is very important. Interrupts are re-enabled only on returning from the handler. Only after return from the handler they are re-enabled. Until that one you are not going to enable. Now only one interrupt can be served at a time from the same source. That is what it is called as non-nested. Means you are not allowing interrupt within an interrupt within an interrupt. That is not allowed. Only one interrupt is going to be served at a time from the same source. And why it is not suitable for the complex embedded system? Because in the complex embedded system where very time critical responses are required, is not only one interrupts you are going to have it in the complex embedded system, you will have many interrupts, and all those interrupts some priorities are given which need to be handled within this time deadline, so that it is never going to do that one. So that's why, because it is going to handle only one interrupt, it is not going to handle more than one interrupt. So that's why in the case of complex embedded system, this is not suitable. Of course, it is suitable for the very simple type of application. Only one, after completion of the one interrupt, it is going to take up another interrupt. That is what it is going to do. Okay, so this is what happens. Okay, so enable, you are going to enable the interrupt, then whatever the modes, okay, the before the interrupt occurred, what the processor was in respect to any of the mode, that will be retrieved again, and that will be stored in CPSR. So CPSR, now the processor enters into the normal mode before it was interrupted. Then it will also have its PC content rectified properly, so that it will start executing wherever it was interrupted. So that is what it does in. So let me actually move it to the next slide. Then what is basically, okay, this we have already discussed. It handles and services individual interrupts sequentially. Then okay, one more thing that we have, why we have the high interrupt latency. Cannot handle further interrupts occurring while an interrupt is being serviced. So high interrupt latency, we have already discussed the definition of the interrupt latency. Interrupt latency means whenever before you service the interrupt, what all things you do it. Okay, like saving the contents, like CPSR modes were being changed. Then before you pick up the interrupt, what all things you do. That is what actually interrupt latency, and the time spent in that one, that is what we say interrupt latency. So why we say high interrupt latency? See, imagine actually one interrupt one is being serviced under the non-nested interrupt handler. Okay, non-nested interrupt handler. When this is being serviced, imagine actually I2 also tries to interrupt the processor, okay, or some other exception is being raised. Maybe FIQ is being, okay, I1 is an FIQ interrupt, then IRQ interrupt actually is, of course it is not going to be allowed itself, maybe some other exception. Okay, that's also kind of interrupt only. Maybe timer one interrupt it wants to have it. Of course, interrupt controller will not only allow, because there is only one interrupt pin. Okay, maybe one more exception, that is reset exception. Sorry, not reset exception, it is having the highest priority. Maybe let me have some SVC exception, okay. Or if I have to take this interrupt only timer, maybe UART is being serviced, okay. UART is being serviced. Now UART is being synced. Let me take this one as an interrupt one. To the non-nested interrupt handler, your UART is being serviced. When UART is being serviced through the non-nested interrupt handler, when timer wants to interrupt the processor, will it be allowed? No, it will not be allowed. Because why? Because you have disabled the interrupts. When you are going to enable the interrupts again, after you exit from the interrupt handler, then only you are going to enable the interrupts. This is what we discussed here, isn't it? You are going to enable after you return from the handler only. So after return from the handler only, you are going to re-enable. Like, see, you have one interrupt I1, it is getting serviced, okay. Before it gets serviced, actually another interrupt comes here. Whereas in the case of nested, this is going to be picked up from the interrupt handler only. This is interrupt handler for the I1. This is interrupt handler for the I2. If I2 comes, it is going to jump here. So this is similar to what you have it here. Let me show it here. This is here. So you can just observe here. See here. This is then nested interrupt handler. This is normal execution. There is one interrupt one, and this is an interrupt handler. This is an interrupt handler. Okay. So and this is of course you have enabled the interrupt here. When interrupt 1 comes, it goes to the interrupt handler, it is going to service the interrupt 1. Now, when interrupt 2 occurs before completion, as you can just observe here, here is a starting, here is the starting point of the interrupt handler, and this is the ending point, return of the interrupt handler, isn't it? Whereas, interrupt is getting serviced here, somewhere at this point, okay. You are enabling the interrupt, of course, in the case of nested interrupt. But here, of course, here you are not enabled, you have disabled only. So you are going to enable the interrupt within the interrupt handler. That is in the case of nested interrupt handler. That we'll discuss in the next video. But one thing what you have to understand here is that within the interrupt handler, whatever that you have written within the interrupt handler, you are never going to enable, means interrupts are disabled. Interrupts, you are going to enable it again. That's why nested is not allowed, means it is not allowed only. Whereas with respect to, so you can just observe here, that's what I was discussing. In the interrupt handler, when interrupt 1 is being serviced, you go to the interrupt 1 handler, okay, of course, IRQ handler, general IRQ handler. If I1 is raised through IRQ pin, you go to the IRQ handler. When you go to the IRQ handler, you are servicing interrupt 1. When you are servicing interrupt 1, before you come back from this interrupt 1, you are never going to enable IRQ again. You are not going to enable IRQ again. Not enable IRQ again. After you exit from the IRQ handler, you are going to enable IRQ. But within the interrupt handler, you have disabled the IRQ. You have disabled the IRQ. Whereas with respect to that one, of course, other handlers, it will not happen like that way. With non-nested handler, you have disabled that one. What happens if you have disabled? Means the I2 which is asking the attention of the processor. Let me write it. Now, I1 which has raised, you have disabled the interrupt here. So now I1 is getting service. When I1 is getting service, as I said earlier, in the case of non-nested interrupt handler, you are not going to entertain more than one interrupt. When more than one interrupt is not going to be entertained, when I1 is getting service, after it exists from this interrupt handler, that is, of course, after servicing this interrupt, if I1 is raised through IRQ and IRQ handler, after it exists from the IRQ handler, then only I2 will be allotted. Means I2 will be encouraged, okay, through the IRQ pin. So till that time, I2 had to keep on waiting. Maybe let me say at T1 time, I1 has raised the interrupt. Then I1 is picked up. At immediately, maybe T1 plus delta T, that is T2. I2 also has raised, but it has not exited from the IRQ handler that is, it has not exited from the servicing the I1 interrupt. So somewhere maybe at here, somewhere at this T3 point, your I1 is serviced. Okay, your I1 is serviced. It exits from I1, that is IRQ handler. Okay, it exits from the IRQ handler. When it exits from the IRQ handler at T3, now at T4, maybe after it exits, you're going to enable at T4. You're going to enable the IRQ. You're going to enable the IRQ by setting I is equal to 0. At T4, now I2 will be picked up, but it had to wait for this amount of time. Okay, if I1 was not there, then I2 would have picked up at this moment only. It didn't have to wait till this time, isn't it? So that is how interrupt latency high we say means more amount of time other interrupts have to bear. More amount of time other interrupts have to bear. This is one disadvantage that you have. This is the main disadvantage. Okay, high interrupt latency is the one of the biggest disadvantage that you have with respect to non-nested interrupt handler. Okay, so more amount of time is spent, means other interrupts have to wait. Let me say not bear, have to wait. Of course, advantage is relatively easy to implement and debug. This is very simple when compared to nested interrupt handler. It is very simple to design. But disadvantage, as I said earlier, it cannot be used to handle the complex embedded system with a multiple priority interrupts, because it will handle only single interrupt. It will not handle multiple interrupts. It will not handle multiple interrupts. It will handle only single. Okay. So because it is going to disable the interrupts. Whenever it only after exiting from the IRQ handler, it is going to enable the interrupts again. So that is how. Of course, disadvantage is high interrupt latency, as well as the can't handle the complex embedded system, because it has to. It will make. It will keep on. I mean, it will make other interrupts wait for a longer amount of time. But it is very relatively easy to simple and debug. Simple, very easy to implement, and then as well as debug, very simple to design. So for simple embedded system, obviously we prefer this non-nested interrupt handler. So this is what with respect to non-nested interrupt handler. So whenever it is asked to explain the non-nested interrupt handler, so what you do is that you definitely actually write this diagram. Okay. So one thing what you have to understand is that if it is asked, you write this explanation, you write this flow chart for the non-nested interrupt handler as well as this explanation. Then what you have to write is this advantage and disadvantage. If you write these all things, it is more than sufficient. Okay. So hope all of you understood this one, this non-nested interrupt handler. So we'll discuss about the nested interrupt handler in the next video. Okay, fine. Thank you.